to die in there. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Alright. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another IAS horror podcast where we talk about horror movies all the time. This is your host, Renegade Operative, and we're talking about a very special franchise today, which is Final Destination. There is no escapes, you can't cheat death. A series that is near and dear to our hearts. We're going to talk about the recent movie, Final Destination Bloodlines, as well as all the other entries and ideas that we can conjure up and talk about. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce my panel, and first we have Drobit.
Yeah, it's nice to talk about the movie, and since I did just see it last week, pretty excited. Pretty excited about it since I think it's like one of the first horror franchises I saw back when it was new.
Next up, we have Enderlucian.
Alright, this definitely gonna be a good one. I'm gonna be really indecisive with everything because I just binge watched them like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, ready for it.
Callian, how about you introduce yourself, good sir?
Hi, I'm Callan Hale. I binge watched these right before Final Bloodlines, FT Bloodlines came out, and all fresh memory. Love the franchise. -1.
And we're gonna get into the first question here. So, basic question: how did you get into Final Destination for your first time in history? And we're gonna go with Drobit first. How did you get into the franchise?
Well, that's actually pretty interesting because I'm pretty sure I saw it might have been I saw the first one back on home video years ago. I heard about it saying that there's no killer in it, and that people die accidentally, and I'm thinking how's that work? And then I think I saw, and then I saw my first experience with it was actually the third one, and then I went to go back to watch the other ones, and then watch the new ones, so on. I thought they were a really cool premise because it was kind of not your typical horror movie, and that the killer wasn't someone you could just see. And of course, the concept of death actually really fascinated me. And I thought that there was just so much you could do with the series from then on, and how creative they got. That was my experience with it, and honestly, it is one of my favorite horror franchises for sure.
Enderlucian, what about you? How did you get into Final Destination for the first time in history?
When it came to me, I was aware of the franchise before, but most recently I just decided I was gonna watch it. And it turns out around the same time there was a podcast announced. I'm like, what the heck? That timing is crazy. But yeah, I was always aware of the tanning bed deaths, the roller coaster, the airline. But when I got into it, actually watching it, I'm like, this is crazy. This is all heavily planned out by death and everything. It's just something I've never seen before. And that's another reason I do love the series. That's about it.
Alright, it is my turn. I got into this franchise in a funny and just normal, prototypical way. I believe this was always playing on certain channels like sci-fi and whatnot. They would always have Final Destination on, and they were marathoning the series. So I believe that I watched the first one right there for the first time in history, and I thought it was a very interesting concept with the idea of the killer can't be seen, just like Drill said, and it's people trying to evade death itself and getting caught in these kind of Rube Goldberg scenarios where they're getting killed like left and right. It might knock down something, or it might knock down the pole, or something might roll into something else and knock it over, and people might get set on fire, or their computers might explode. And I just thought it was fascinating that Def is trying to go back and clean up the mess. It's one of those ideas that is like so cool, and it's not your prototypical like, oh, here's the big bad slasher wearing like a mask and he's like all steroided up and you can't kill him. It was different, the same way that I thought that Nightmare on Elm Street was different for slashers at the time, and this is like no exception to the rule. So I really loved it, enjoyed it from there, and I think I got a second win by seeing the DVDs for the first time. We have Final Destination 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I went and binge watched all of them again, and I found a sort of newfound appreciation after watching them on TV for the first time in history. That's how I got into the franchise, just having a family time. Barbecues and seeing people get killed by death was very fundamental for me. Callian, it is your turn. How did you get into the Final Destination franchise for the first time?
I was actually by, I don't know if you all remember, Blockbuster Video. They had a trailer showing for Final Destination. And I saw it and I was like, must see this movie. And once I saw the first one, I was like, oh, there better be a second, because this led so much to, there's so much more lore we can explore, there's so much stuff we can do. And then I ended up buying all the DVDs mostly because of the covers. Unfortunately, I bought them because of their covers, because they look so cool. And when I heard about Bloodlines, I was like, how many years has it been? Yes, we need a new one. Because they do such a good job. And I think we can all agree, when you watch it, it triggers a new fear in you every time you watch it. And I watched one before I joined the service. And then we watched two, and while I was in the service, I was like, I'm never driving behind a lumber truck. Ever. Nope.
We're going to move on to our next question, which is question number 2. So this is talking more about Death's design, and how do you feel about Death being a main stalker of the franchise, being this supernatural entity causing accidents for people in the series? We're going to go with Drill first. What do you think of Death in the series?
Honestly, I think it's a pretty cool concept because I guess, well, it kind of breaks the traditional like horror movie trope of having someone always stalking you at all times. Well, it kind of reinvents it to where, yeah, you know they're there, but you can't really do anything because they're kind of omniscient, and they always know what you're doing and everything, and it feels like there's just no way around it, and you're gonna just die eventually, and that's kind of a theme where no matter what you do, you're just going to death will always come for you eventually, kind of like in real life where you just can't escape it, but because everyone does die eventually, but no one really thinks about it because it's just kind of an insignificant part of their lives. And and that and that everyone's always got to think like, I feel like everyone's always thought once or twice like, oh, this person died by an accident, but what if it was like planned that way, or it was just always destined to happen, and that there was just no escape around it. That's what I really like about it, mainly because it isn't like a generic way of killing people, and that and that it just feels always inevitable all the time to me. That's just my thoughts on it.
Interlucian, it is your turn. What do you think about Death as a main supernatural stalker in the series?
Yeah, basically continuing on with that, I personally think that it's just so unique. And I feel like this is the main reason why I'm having so much issues like with like favorites and everything in here because I'm gonna be struggling with those questions, but I'll try my very best. Because yeah, you literally cannot escape death. Like at some point it is gonna come for you. And it can be very unique, like how it plays out. And that's just the most interesting thing about it. Like you never know what's gonna happen.
It's my turn. I guess I'll go next. Uh, so as usual, the typical stuff still applies to this question in particular. It's fascinating. It's one of those concepts where you can't really see death. They do these little things in the first one where you get a glimpse of like a black cloud and that's it, but you don't see it from anywhere. Characters can't really do anything but have some sort of precognition to try to detect where Death is or what he's doing at the time, but still, some people are even surprised by that and they get killed completely off guard. Therefore, it's one of those things where I have to echo Tony Todd's sort of quotes in Final Destination 1 where you don't fuck with that Mac Daddy because the way Death kills people is very aggressive, violent. It could be subtle, it could be from anywhere. Even in the series later on, we've seen people get cancer and it's like Death gets the last laugh. Even though I like what the director said, where even if he gives people cancer, it's boring to him because he wants people to die a quick and painful death. So I just think that those premises are interesting, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't go the route of, oh well, here's an animal killing someone because that's too organic, or here's the idea of showing death on screen because I like when it cannot be seen. You know it's there. The wind is a great addition as well with the wind chimes and everything that gives the signal, hey, something is up. We need to get the fuck out of here. We need to do something about this. And that's what I love the most about this franchise. It's the element of you don't really see it coming before it's way too late. And that's my favorite thing about Final Destination and the villain at hand here. Callan, it is your turn. What do you think of Death in the franchise?
Oh, love how they portray death. And as you said, Tony Todd said it best. He's one Mac Daddy you don't want to fuck with. Because we never get to see death do the same thing twice. Like we get the wind, we get the chimes, but every kill is unique. Like he's just behind the scenes like I'm going to pull this thread, I'm going to pull this thread. Will you go where I want you to go? Or will you not go where I want you to go? He didn't know. He played the dice game on it, and it's like, oh, yep, you're there. Because we don't ever see a personification, we get so much more. And we can either like or hate him based off that so much more.
All right, we're going to move on to question number 3 here on the document. And that is, what do you think of the rules when it comes to cheating death itself? And this can correlate to someone saving someone else and them getting skipped. The idea of new life, which means you have to die, and if you're resuscitated, you can break the cycle. And then there's the idea of extending life, where you kill someone and you take their time that they have left. What do you think of these particular rules of cheating death? And we will go with Drillbit first.
I mean, I think in like the first movie they kind of like didn't really establish the rules of it. Like they always made it seem like, oh, it's inevitable. There's no way around it. around it, and they just had to think of ways to just avoid it as much as possible. But I do like that they, as the series progressed, they started to introduce like different ways of cheating it, and then and the idea that yeah, you basically have to die and be born into a new life. I think that's pretty cool. Well, I think that's a really cool idea. And then of course having to kill someone with to take their life, but the risk with that is you have no idea whose life, how long they have left to live, and even then it could only be a few days. Like with Final Destination 5, I forget that guy's name, but he killed his coworker on accident and he was gonna die in like a week anyway. And and then I do like that they kind of poked fun at it, where they saw like a baby and thought, oh no, we can't go that far. That would be kind of fucked up. And yeah,
All right.
and yeah, that's
Okay.
just pretty much my thoughts on it.
All right. It is Ender Lucian's turn. What do you think of the rules of the lore and cheating death?
So my thoughts on the rules, personally, is a unique thing, in all honesty. But it seems like even with these rules, it is just like so hard to escape death. Is you can't really do that. Uh, but yeah, just saving someone before they're killed. I mean, there's been moments where that's happened, but it's just gonna like go back to them once somebody else dies. Like you can't escape it. New life means you have to die and get revived to break the cycle. Extending life, yeah, just killing someone, taking their life. I wish there were more moments of that, like extreme psychopath. But it is just very unique. But in general, you just can't escape death. Ren.
All right. It is my turn. Now, there's a few things. I'm going to start with the sort of doing a temporary tackle to someone, getting them out of the way and skipping. I always thought this is not like, it's just sort of delaying the inevitable. It's a rule that's kind of, in my personal opinion, just kind of stupid because even if you skip someone, it means you're still gonna die anyway. You just lost your place in line, and that's kind of like what the fuck. Like to me, I feel like if I was in that situation where I push someone out of the way, and or someone pushes me out of the way and it skips me, I'm gonna still die anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's just sort of a temporary move, which is not the real definitive answer, as Drill pointed out. The real answer to cheating death fully is to die, which is the definitive answer to do, which is new life. But as Bloodworth says, both of these attempts are like super risky because there's the chance that you're gonna die anyway, and you're not gonna get as lucky as the female character, the protagonist in Final Destination 2. You
You
could,
mean Kimberly?
yeah, Kimberly Corman. So you could drown, or it's just being lucky enough to be resuscitated, and even in the moment of being resuscitated, it can still fail, like we saw in the ending of Final Destination Bloodlines. As for the life extender, that's also kind of leaning on the wacky side because, well, there is the guy that shot the agent Block, and I'm not sure if that meant he was going to get his life extended or not, but it really didn't matter because he still got stabbed in the chest in Final Destination 5 when Peter was like going around killing people, which was cool. At the same time, it's risky. Like, you could kill someone that could die tomorrow. The stuff with the babies, maybe the babies could get sick, and even if they attempted to do something as dark as that, you never know because you're taking their life, and their lifespan could be long or short, depending. I do think though that Bloodworth maybe has killed someone and he got lucky and he managed to extend his life so far, which is why he avoided death for a long, long time. I think that's a logical answer to that question. And I also think he's still kind of supernatural himself in a sense because there's no way he knows all these people's names. But I'm gonna talk more on that later. It's just one of those things where it is like, yeah, you could do these two things, but it's also like a deterrent to them as well because if you don't do it right or you can get fucked over like the guy at the end with the enlarged heart. He took his life and he only lived for 2 days and that was it, and then the guy got killed by like an airplane wheel or something going through like a building. uh I like them, but I don't like when they do the thing where you have the premonition and the person still can't escape no matter what. This is something that happened in Final Destination 3 with the subway train because they had the premonition, and you know, naturally you think you have the premonition, you can get out, you can leave, but apparently that was not the case, and Death was smart enough to like close the doors. Uh, it's also one of those things where I have to appreciate the fact that there's not a lot of like super rules that are introduced to get you out of the situation, because I feel like if you introduce way too many, then it will be like, oh, everyone can like cheat death now. What's the point? So I do like these stipulations as well, where it's really no way out, and the alternative is you're taking a chance, you're taking a gamble, which many people will determine whether they want to do or not to do. And I think that moral complexity of the characters like struggling with it is very, very cool and important. Sometimes it's very human for them to say no. I would rather have death get me than to attempt to do this, or I'm not a murderer. Or some people will be like, yeah, I don't mind pushing this person in front of a bus to see if I can get their life, which is what Final Destination 5 kind of contemplated, which is really cool. So I guess the moral weights and the human struggle, seeing that come into fold with the rules, is the best thing about the franchise so far. Callian, it is your turn. What do you think of the rules in cheating death?
Oh, I agree with a lot of what you said. Like, there is a moral struggle there of, do I end this person for maybe another week? I don't know. Because you don't know what death's real design is with the long term of it. But what I find interesting is they did contemplate it, though. Like you mentioned, Ren, and others mentioned, like that they really thought about what is death's design and how can we screw that design over? Like we talked about in the Discord with the brothers. It's like, no, we're not gonna off a bunch of babies. Because how do you know that they might have a week, they might have a month, they might have a year? You don't know. The design is so unique. It's hard to know how to break it. Like in Final Destination 1, they thought they broke the design when they got to Paris. And then the lights broke and they did not defeat death. Except for Claire. The death design is basically, to me, a roll of a d20. Do you succeed or do you fail? Let's see how it rolls.
Alrighty, we're moving on to the next question, which is number 4. What do you think of William Bloodworth's role throughout the entirety of the Final Destination franchise? And we will go with Drillbit first.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's a bit mixed because I kind of feel like he started off as an interesting character. Like, you didn't know too much about him, and he seemed to know way more than others, and it was making you think, oh, is he like Death himself, or does he work for Death? And then as the series progressed, he started to just know these characters and everything. and you started to just question whether or not he was dead. I, I remember hearing a theory saying, "Oh, he's dead because he appears in Final Destination 3 as like the voice of the ride that fails," but that was just like an Easter egg, honestly. I don't think that ever came to be. And I wasn't a fan. Of course, once we got to like 6, I wasn't a fan of them like just demystifying him and reveal, oh, he just survived an incident with death, and that I get it was probably done to just give closure on his character since Tony Todd was just getting ill at the time and they needed a way to just give his character closure and so that they can move the series without him. But at the same time I felt like less was more, and it kind of felt like it just contradicts his characters from like the first one to 6, thinking, oh well, Iris was just keeping him alive this whole time, and that he was just, and that's why he knows so much about death. But it also doesn't match up with some things like knowing about Alex and the others, and knowing way more about death than other people. There's just something that feels like the writers intended for his character. Like I feel like he was intended to be an antagonist, but then they had to rewrite it. And that's kind of just my issue with the character. Like I think up until 5 his character was really interesting, but then 6 kind of felt like they just contradicted it. At least that's my thoughts on it.
Interlucian, it is your turn. What do you think of William Bloodworth within the series and his role so far?
So my thought on his role, he was definitely a very interesting character, very mysterious from the start. But just moving on to this series, he was more like a leeway for like additional characters later in the series because they had literally no idea what was happening. So it's kind of like he was holding their hand, helping them, but it just was kind of like interesting that he like knew the characters and everything. So he overall is just very mysterious, and it's kind of sad what they did, like the goodbye with Bloodlines. I mean it was bound to happen, but I personally like the way that they ended that. But I feel like there's much more of the character that we should have gotten. That's my opinion.
Okay, it is my turn. I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Ender Lucian said a little bit, where he said he wishes we got more of the character. I agree with this to a large extent when you talk about prior Final Destinations. So Bloodworth is not in all of the movies. I don't know why he's not in Final Destination 3 or 4. It's just one of those things where it's like it's kind of weird. And I understand the little Devil's Right cameo they wanted to do. Tony Todd is still in the movie, but it's not Bloodworth showing up in person. So they could have built the lore a little bit more on Bloodworth's character in those 2 prior movies, maybe to sort of answer those questions there. And then you skip to 5 and he says something like, "Oh, I've seen something like this before," where it comes to all of the mayhem and death and destruction, showing that he's not really someone that hasn't seen some of these events for himself prior in the past to that very first encounter, all the way back in the past. Uh, and I thought that part was interesting up until that point. I thought that part was like, okay, so maybe he has survived an event, or maybe he's seen the earliest machinations of death itself. And Bloodline tries to do this with the beginning, going back like 60 something years, all the way back to the 1960s, where you see Iris and she gets the premonition and everything collapses, and you find out that Bloodworth is like a child there the entire time, and he was saved from death given that Iris like evacuated the Sky Tower. uh I do agree that I wish they would have answered certain things, like how does Bloodworth know everyone's name when he sees them? It doesn't make much sense. How does he know all this stuff immediately unless you want to chalk it up to, oh, he found all these news reports and whatnot. He knew what was happening behind the scenes the entire time. That's probably the explanation, but I don't like it. I prefer the more mysterious deaf coroner, the guy who may have some affiliation with death in a sense, and the way he was talking, it just seemed like I liked how Tony Todd did tell the audience, hey, this is going to be my final performance here and life is precious. That whole speech was beautiful. It was really well done. But I do feel like they could have done a bit more with the character and maybe said something like, yeah, maybe I do have affiliations with death and it's not really that bad. I think that would have been like, oh shit, it really is mysterious and confirms the theories that we actually talked about from the start. And I don't think I would have had a problem with it because it would have tied it all together. Like, he knows his time is coming, but he also has a feeling that this will keep going on and on and on forever, and that he knows all of this stuff, and that he might leave this mortal coil and something might be left behind that's even more vicious or whatever. I wish they would have teased a bit more into future implications of that with, you know, the spirit of the franchise. And a lot of people do like Tony Todd as the embodiment of the franchise. If he was deaf himself, I wouldn't have complained either. Because, you know, physical manifestations and whatnot, I know they don't want to do it, but it would have been cool. Either way, I do like when he first showed up. It was kind of cool. It's like, who is this guy and why is he chopping up all these bodies and why is he talking about don't fuck with this Mac Daddy that is deaf? It seemed like those characters that will give you exposition, and they are also one step ahead of all the other characters in the lore, which is cool, which is crazy actually. The more they expanded on it, more and more and more, giving the rules and everything. But I also did like how he got tired of giving people advice as well, because I would figure someone in this position for like almost 30 something years will get sick of it. So I did like that as well. Definitely a cool exposition dump of the franchise. And I just wish we would have saw more of the character in Final Destination 3, in those other movies he wasn't in. And you know, rest in peace Tony Todd. I have to say that because he did unfortunately pass away from cancer. So I think the only thing we'll get left of Bloodworth is a snippet sort of confirming the cancer thing and how death has gotten him, and that's it. Unless he has a bloodline or maybe other family relatives and they explore that a little bit more. That could be a potential possibility. We never know. That's one thing I just thought about on the fly. So that's kind of cool if they explore his family and see what they're like and see how crazy they are. I wouldn't mind that either. I think that'd be pretty cool. Callan, how about you? What do you think of Bloodworth in the series?
Well, first of all, I want to say fuck cancer, because fuck cancer. It took a great actor from us. I do wish we had like Bloodworth's own kind of background story going on. We got a little bit. We didn't get a lot of it though. Like we saw in Bloodlines, and he mentioned, "Oh, I was the kid that Iris saved," but I wonder how many other people that motherfucker saved. Just being like, as you mentioned, he just looked like he's like, I'm tired of this shit. He just kind of looked at the kids like, again. I love that character, and I want more of their background. That character had depth we never saw, like what convinced him to help them. Why did he want to help them? We know through Bloodlines, but befriending Iris, he knew that Death's plan was. But why did he decide, I'm gonna be the guy who helps these little fuckers screw with this plan? We don't get told that. I think we should, personally. Because as a character himself, you went from, we're in a morgue, to now I'm the mortuary assistant, picking up a body, and just giving a subtle nod to you, to I'm retiring, is all we got. I think we need more.
And yeah, I want to add on that real quick. I also thought it was weird that the victims, after they got killed from Death's Design, they would wind up in the same morgue that Bloodworth is in, and he's working on their bodies. And I'm like, how did you get the bodies to these people, and you know specifically what has happened to them thus far? It's just I know that I'm just getting into it. I know it's like Bloodlines explains this, explains that, but I don't understand how he gets these specific bodies, finds them, and then all of a sudden, hey, I know exactly what this is. It's just like, I wish it was just more mysterious that way, is what I'm saying. I wish it was more mystified, and some stuff they didn't tell you, and maybe you get those theories and implications come to life a little bit, as opposed to just sort of doing that, because he always works on a corpse that just got killed. And it's like, oh, I know what's going on here, and it's like, yeah, it's just a little bit weird. But that's my only gripe with that so far.
It makes it seem like he's a serial killer almost.
That idea would
Not
actually be cool. Someone has said that too. They said that idea is cool. What if Bloodworth was a serial killer working with Death, and they were partners or something like that? That would have made a whole lot of sense, because now it just goes together. It's like 2 and 2. It makes perfect sense. I would have liked that, to be honest. But we have to move on to the next one. Next question is going to be talking about Final Destination Bloodlines, and everyone here has seen it. Now is the time to give your impressions, reviews, what you liked, didn't like about the movie, and Drill, you go first.
Yeah. Well, overall, I actually pretty much enjoyed it. I thought it was like at least a solid 8 out of 10. Although, I mean, I will say like the positives first, and then like gripes with it. Well, the positives are it's very well shot. It's probably it's probably one of the best looking films in the series by far. There's a lot of really great set designs, and the kills are still very well done. I think they even have like the real thing in terms of practical gore. The cast is actually pretty enjoyable, and I do like that they at least tried to add more depth to the lore, and implied that like there's like implied that it was a whole chain reaction, and that had led throughout the whole decades, and but yeah, that's my positives on it. Honestly, and I thought it was well acted too. The lead Samantha is pretty great. Honestly, she's probably one of the best ones in the series for me. And then there's the cons. One, I do feel like it kind of retcons a bit of the Final Destination lore, because now it's implied that all of this started, everything that happened in the series is just like a whole ripple / butterfly effect of Iris saving people. Because with Final Destination 5, they clearly intended it to be the ending where they were the cause, where that I forgot the guy's name. Like, he was the cause of like Flight 180, and that it caused an entire chain reaction
Sam?
that led, yeah,
Yeah, Sam Lawton.
because it all started from Sam, and then he ended up kickstarting Flight 180, and then of course because of Flight 180, then it led to Final Destination 2 and beyond. I felt like that they intended 5 to be the ending, and that they kind of like kept that, they kind of meant for that to just keep that series like so closed off that you couldn't really do any more sequels without having to either retcon it or just introduce new lore. And that's what they kind of did with Iris, saying that she was the one that started everything, and that because of her saving the Skyview people, now there's like tons of descendants of people that were never supposed to be alive, and now death is just coming, and death just came after them over the years, and now after like 50 plus years, Iris's bloodline is just the last to go. And oh, we're allowed to talk about spoilers, right?
Yep, this is a spoiler cast for all the movies, so
And because Iris had died telling Samantha about it, then that just starts off the chain that just kickstarts death to come after them and trying to finish what they started. Honestly, I feel like at this point they kind of just at this point I feel like at this point they either just gotta just keep introducing new lore, or the next film they're just gonna have to say, oh, either Iris or someone else had another family, and now they're just gonna have deaths coming after them. Because after the ending, there's basically no one alive now, unless they just say that someone else is alive. There's like another family that's alive, or just try to figure out how to introduce new lore. Like that, like yeah. Overall, I did like the movie, but I feel like they kind of just retconned the series a bit just to make sure there would be more sequels. And who knows what's gonna happen with like Final Destination 7, and what other new storylines they're gonna have to introduce to keep the series going. That's just my entire thoughts on it. Yeah, sorry if it went on for a bit.
no, no, it's fine, it's fine. Drill, uh, since your turn is up, and I just forgot about someone else, but Interlution, it is your turn. What do you think of Final Destination Bloodlines?
I mean, I personally think it was one of the better movies. It started off very differently. That was something I did not expect going into the movie. Instead of going into your first incident where they were seeing this premonition in like the present and they were trying to save that, you went all the way back to the past. So it was something I welcomed, but at the same time kind of missed from the old movies, because when it came to your like main cast, you were seeing like how everybody was getting out of that and everything, and they were trying to save, and it was, I liked it, but I'm kind of mixed about it basically. But when it came to like Iris and everything, I mean, the whole backstory is really welcoming in my eyes. She was getting like cancer, right? She had cancer, so death was gonna take her.
Yeah, but the director said Def believes that cancer is the boring route. He prefers to kill them immediately.
Yeah, yes. I mean that was an additional lore thing I did like. When it came to a lot of the death scenes, they were really gruesome. It was very, especially that garbage truck scene. That was crazy. But I mean, I liked it. The additional just things to it, what it added, hoping for more, I guess.
All right, it's my turn. I'm gonna try to keep this semi short, but here we go. As the film and everything, I thought this movie had a great opening, probably one of the better ones for premonitions, and the concept. I like that they went back in time and decided to say, hey, we got this bloodline thing going on. You know, your whole family is gonna get slaughtered and everything. It was a cool little piece to the lore. I don't feel like this movie added though a whole crazy bunch to Death's design. It's pretty much just real from Final Destination 2 and 5, with the exception of the family thing. So when they try to say that is like super innovative, I was like, yeah, this piece, this bloodline piece is kind of interesting, but it's not really like, oh, we done something entirely new. Because one thing I mentioned in chat is that Final Destination 2 was one of the first movies that kind of said, okay, due to the previous actions of the survivors getting off Flight 180, it started to affect other people, and then it went backwards and killed those survivors in the process. There was that conversation in the car where they said, oh, because of Flight 180, and the people that got off that in certain situations that happened with it, I was supposed to be a school teacher or whatever, and I didn't show up. And then there was the person that said, oh, I was supposed to die in an incident as well, but the chick got killed with a bus in the first movie. So they just decided to do that same idea and go all the way back in the past with it, and have Death somehow like sit on his hands a little bit before he kills like everyone else. It's not the most super original thing in the world of Death going backwards, but I guess for the family thing, it's the most new dynamic they have so far. Other than that, the kills were great, very disgusting. I have to give a shout out to. I know we're gonna talk about favorite kills and everything, but hospital MRI, that's pretty disgusting seeing that.
Oh my.
So I can't wait to describe that one. It's just when the movie got really nasty and violent, and the tension that they had as well with the picnic. I think this embodied Final Destination fear to a T, because when I saw that barbecue and it was a little shard of glass inside of the cup, and everyone was like drinking from the cup, and you didn't know who was going to drink out of the one with the glass inside of it. I was just like, oh no, maybe it's that one, maybe it's this one. And then they used it in an ingenious way of saying, oh, the father dropped the glass on the ground, he steps on it, and then he falls into the lawnmower. Which, this movie is really good with playing with the idea of you don't know what's going to happen until it actually does. And I liked it for the most part. Great characters as well. I thought Eric was like super funny. I thought Stephanie was one of the better survivors that they had, where she's like super paranoid, on the money, and keeps trying to tell these people, and they just think like she's fucking crazy just like everyone else. But it is in areas a prototypical Final Destination movie, which I guess if you've come for that, you enjoy that, and that has not changed, then you're going to still love this film. But as for people coming in expecting something new, different, a fresh new take, you're not gonna get that with this film. And I also think the third act is like kind of weak as well, because it really feels like they rushed to get to that point of saying that, oh, we need to go to the cabin now and everything's safe, and the cabin blows up. And then you find out that, oh, Stephanie was not part of New Life, and she actually was just knocked out, and that was it. And then they get killed by logs, and the movie kind of ends. And one of my favorite reviewers, he said that when the movie ended, I didn't think that was the end of the movie until like they rolled the credits. I was like, maybe it's a little bit more. I don't know. I stayed and I watched, but no. So that was a little bit disappointing to have another disappointing rush third act, but overall, still a great time, still a great movie. I would still give it like a 9-ish or 8-ish up there. Anything's better than 4. I probably will say that for this podcast. Anything's better than the 4th movie. Callan, how about you? What did you think of Final Destination Bloodlines?
Well, I'm going to agree with the ending. The third act was just. We were missing so much they could have done there. And yeah, you're right. Anything is better than 4. I did enjoy how they did the lead up, though. Like, we had the lead up with the past view, and then she wakes up in bed. That that threw me, honestly. That threw me for a loop. It's like, wait, what? Why do we go from the 50s, 60s to now we're modern day? I love that they did that, but I felt they kind of forced the scene with the cabin both times. And even Bloodworth saying, I helped design the cabin, like, that felt very forced to me. But they did such a good job building up the premonitions and saying, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. They just chose the wrong people. Especially with the cousin licking the truck. I thought that was funny, personally. Just goes up to the truck like it's his girlfriend, but like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. That's unique. We didn't see that in any of the other movies.
I also have to bring up one thing, just real quick. One of my criticisms of the film was indeed the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, okay, clear in Final Destination 2, she was in a padded room. That makes sense. No one is allowed in the room with keys, electronics, cell phones, coins, anything. I can buy that death can't really do anything to a person in a padded cell until they leave. But then, in my opinion, if you look at the place that Bloodworth designed, you can literally die from anywhere. And I don't think that the director's description was good. He said these giant spikes outside is to protect other people from getting in and killing the person inside. And it's just like, but the inside is also kind of a death trap, right? You see, she says, I see you, you fucker, before hitting something and knocking it out. And they tried to be like, oh, she's more adept. She's adept as Alex, which is why it's designed that way. But why did Bloodworth design it if the idea was to keep the person alive? And then we see at the end when they get in the cabin, it immediately explodes. So I think
Yeah.
that is a terrible explanation from the directors. It should have been a place that was more hollowed out, padded out, and had more forethought, as opposed to having giant spikes outside, open stoves, everything. It just
Yeah,
is not a good explanation.
Yes. To
that
add
that's
on to
not
the.
that
Oh,
is
no.
not a safe place at all when
Uh,
you look at it. Like I'm a combat vet, and I looked at that and I was like, I see 90 ways to die by just stepping up my front door.
Like, did she even sleep?
Probably not.
Probably
I was
not.
gonna.
There's no
I was
chance.
gonna say like something could have happened where like a plane just falls on there or something.
She
Mhm.
she she probably just mained caffeine pills, honestly.
Dude, the funny
70 years?
the funny thing is, Death has done that before. He has like literally knocked off a plane wheel in Final Destination 5, and he killed the guy at the end. So it's also not it's also not impossible for him to do some sort of aerial death, because he's done that before. So if he wants to kill this decrepit old house and blow it up with like an airplane or something, he could do that.
Or I don't know, say,
And
there's black mold in her house now, so she dies from
oh,
that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a legit thing that could happen. But you all saw how moldy that chair looked, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, sit in this.
it's just
I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit in that. That looks disgusting.
I just don't buy the whole, well, I'm just gonna give her cancer because there's no other option when there's like 70 of them. It's just so
Yeah,
funny.
that's one of the reasons I rated the movie 9 out of 10. Honestly, there's a lot of options they could have gone with. No, what you get taken out by was the weather vane? I have a weather. My neighbor has a weather vane. I never saw that fucker move. So there's that.
And also the idea is what does she do for food and other stuff? Like if she was there for decades.
Uber Eats.
You could very well someone could die from like choking on like putting like a screw in the food or something.
Yeah, like a chicken nugget. Like we heard about that in Ohio. That chicken nugget had a bone in it. She choked on a chicken nugget bone.
You know, I think I need Def to start killing people via food. It would make perfect sense.
that's the next uh, movie. It's just all fast food deaths.
We already almost had someone drink broken
someone-
glass.
Someone did die at a drive-through though in the third movie.
Yeah.
Like the broken glass thing. Honestly, just I did a lot of barbecues when I was younger, and I had one of those little ice chests they had. You can tell that I've seen ice and broken glass. The fact that Eric couldn't irked me so much. Like, come on, dude. You check when you scoop. Because was a thing that could happen, honestly. Was a glass could break and get into your ice. So you scooped and checked, or you checked, then scooped. Because you dig your hand through first.
Also, hold on a second. Ender Lucian, you were also saying something, or?
Huh? Oh no.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying. Has she never slept?
Oh,
Because death could just kill her then and there.
that's the thing too. I find the whole after effect with Iris a bit unbelievable, because I just don't believe that she has survived this long in that rickety house, and then it's just like she's protecting people from getting close to her on the inside, but you got the spikes that can kill you. Everything else is just like I just didn't get that at all. So that's the one thing I disagree with the directors for sure. But we have to, anything else on Bloodlines before we move on to the next question? Going once, going twice. Good.
The stupidity of that weird, death can use a magnifying glass to reflect light off of a non-shiny panel to burn a piece of
I think it's easier to say why is the penny the main killer of the full movie? That thing is like everywhere. It makes no sense. Like that thing literally.
We talked about that in the Discord. That penny.
It stops a train. I don't what is going on?
That's why they're gonna stop making pennies now.
Yeah, I saw that on the news.
The timing is crazy.
The timing for that is insane.
Pennies. It's Final Destination 6.
Like I've seen pennies everywhere. I'm like, I'm not picking that up. I'm not picking that up anymore. I'm not doing that.
Just blame the movie for that one.
Because you pick up that penny, you accidentally drop it. Next thing you know, a random Goldberg machine effects happen.
I think the funniest part is that guy actually died later in the timeline. In the newspapers, it literally says pickpocketer killed by piano, which is he died in a premonition due to piano, and then later on he got killed by piano anyway. So I'm like, death is kind of ironic in that sense.
Grandma should have never picked up the penny.
Yeah.
Hey, death plays, like you said, death plays to the like I said, death plays to the audience, and you said death plays the piano.
That kid was an asshole anyway, so he kind of deserves it. He had it coming. In the premonition, he was an asshole. In the later stage where he got saved, he was an asshole. So him getting killed is kind of probably the best thing of the movie. So I kind of laughed at that. But we're gonna move on to our favorite and least favorite premonition throughout the series. Drill, I'm gonna have you go first.
The best and least favorite.
Yeah,
So
favorite
like
and
in
least
terms
favorite.
of premonition, like it's the one at the very beginning, right?
Yeah, where the thing at the very beginning that they see that leads up to the accident, and
Alright.
that's what is our favorite and least favorite.
Honestly, in terms of favorite, that's a hard one because it's either between the first or second one. Mainly because it mainly because the whole setup of like the flight just going horribly out of control is pretty scary. And and just how all of the signs are there, like the whole like how I think it Todd said, oh, was it Todd that said it? Like saying that you gotta be a pretty fucked up god to kill a baby. And then they show someone that's disabled on the plane and he's like a really fucked up one.
It's either Todd or his brother. It's one or the other because his brother was on the plane, and I believe that's the one that stayed before the plane got blown up.
Yep. It was one of them. But honestly, I think it slightly edges out at two because there's like all because I think the build-up's really good with them talking about Highway to Hell, the Mount Abraham bus, and them saying pile up, and then of course the coffee spills, and then it just leads to like the logs like destroying everything, and there's just carnage and chaos everywhere, and it's just so brutal. Like probably Final Destination 2 is what gave me the fear of like going on the highway because or being behind any truck with the logs because of that movie. I'm actually surprised to know that that it was CGI because it was really well done. They actually did try with real logs, but they couldn't get the effect. So it's
Dude,
still one. Hmm,
that made me think it was real logs for years.
yeah, but it's actually CG.
Yeah, they said the bouncing thing could not happen, so that's the only like real super CG. Oh, and the imposed face on the cop. But the rest of him is like a dummy, which is why when he gets hit with the log and you see his head, it's like they have a bunch of fake blood and meat spill out of the back of the car, which is like, oh my god, that's disgusting, dude.
Yeah, like honestly, it's probably my favorite of all of the premonitions because of the whole setup and everything that happens in it. It's still such a great scene. Honestly, the worst one for me, I think it has to be four with with like the speedway. It just seems kind of way too ridiculous to actually ever happen, and the way people die in it is just kind of dumb. Like one lady gets crushed by like an engine because it flies into the audience, and it just seemed a bit too cartoony for me. Like the only part I did like about it, well, it didn't even happen in the premonition, is where the lady gets hit by a wheel. That was really gory. But other than that, I think it was just like very forgettable. And I just felt like it wasn't really scary or anything. It just felt kind of dumb. But I will give an honorable shout out to like Final Bloodlines with the sky view, and of course how there's a transparent floor, and then it just slowly is cracking because of the weight. And they explain that the reason is because they built it way too quick, so it's very shoddy.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And
Oh, good.
it's very shoddy, and to the point where
Little
the
shit.
little shit, like yeah, like he's just messing around and throwing a penny. Like, like I actually laughed pretty hard when he got hit by the piano. But yeah, that was probably like the best best and worst ones for me.
I'm gonna have to. Well, A lot of people's gonna say 2 because it's memorable, realistic. I mean, a highway pile up is the most like that can happen to anyone. Uh, but my favorite so far, I'm actually gonna give it to Bloodlines because I don't like heights. I said it before. Heights is like my number one phobia. So being up in high places, I really cannot stand it. And I guess by extension, I don't like the premonition in Final Destination 3 scares the fuck out of me too because I actually did get phobia on a roller coaster, and I'm like, I can't. I gotta get off this ride now. I can't. I can't be on it. I can't stand it. It was literally killing me to be there. So, and I felt like I was gonna just throw up. So, high places I do not deal with fondly, and this series has tackled this like a couple of times over. So I would say either 3 or in Bloodlines, and least favorite, honestly 4. I feel like 4's premonition is so disappointing because look, okay, I can understand in a raceway maybe there could be an accident. There has been accidents before in like NASCAR style raceways, but not to the point where they are causing like super massive, like you see tires just running around cutting people's heads off, like not to that effect. That's ridiculous in that movie. Someone got cut in half from a fucking car piece of debris coming out of the crowd, and I'm just like, what the, it's just so ridiculous. I can't believe it. If anything, and I'm gonna talk about this later, I would wish they would revisit Final Destination 4 for like maybe a remake or something. And if they did, I would have the mall premonition or the movie theater one come first because we already seen an accident that happened with Final Destination where someone was watching Bloodlines and the theater like collapsed. I think a movie theater or a mall would have stuff that could kill you. And seeing that girl get like stuck in the escalator, I was like, oh shit, that's another fear. Like people going into automated like machines or whatever, going up and down and getting stuck in them. It's so weird that Final Destination 4 has a cool, legitimate fear at the end of the movie, but the beginning premonition is not that good. It's so weird, and I just don't get it at all. But that's the best and worst for me. Next is Interlution. What is the best and worst premonition for you in Final Destination?
I'm probably gonna have to say this one's difficult because I probably wouldn't like being on a plane. I haven't been on a plane in years since I was like a baby. But yeah, I mean, 2 just brings out that fear, especially with the logs and like, especially when you're like a kid. Let's say you're in the car with your parents. Didn't it just scare you to be like right next to a semi?
I think the scariest part of that whole sequence had to be the one where not only is it the logs, but the one where like the dude is just sitting there on fire cooking and he can't escape his
Oh
seatbelt
yeah.
or he
Yeah,
cannot get
because
out.
Oh yeah.
because his jacket is stuck in the car and he's just slowly being burned
Yep.
alive.
Yeah.
It's just scary,
Yeah,
dude.
that's next level fear.
Like just being stuck in like a jam and everything. But yeah, the foreshadowing like in these premonitions are like crazy. Like if you massively pay attention, I just love the heck out of it. I do not like roller coasters. I haven't been on any like adult roller coaster other than a kiddie coaster. But that was when I was a kid. Because I don't like speeds, I don't like heights. So that Bloodline one, I guess I just have a lot of fear of like heights and just like a lot of things, I guess. Because a lot of these, I mean, number 4, yeah, meh. But I mean, 5 with the bridge. I mean, that's also like another scary thing. Just like, what if this bridge just collapses? But probably 2, especially with that all that foreshadowing. I don't know if anybody else caught it, but I I like watched a video last night. I guess there's this like beer that they have in like almost all the movies that like leads up to a death. It's like the same brand beer. But yeah, that's all I got to say.
I, I oh,
Funny
go ahead.
enough,
Go ahead.
it's Miller High Life
Yeah, Miller High
that
Life.
they have in all the movies. That before somebody dies, they show off the original canon one when the teacher got the garbage disposal and then the knife stuff happens
If
with her
we
computer.
if we talk about best foreshadowing, it's definitely two, because I kind of, well, I like all of them in a sense except for, but I like the Highway to Hell music
one's good.
by AC/DC that plays before the pile up happens, because it just
That one's so
signifies
good.
it's brilliant. It's so good,
Oh,
man.
that was next level. Or when they in Bloodlines when they played Fire, like you know what's gonna
Great Balls
happen
of
now.
Fire, I think it was.
When the right before the security guard told the kid don't steal coins from the wishing fountain, like, oh, this is foreshadowing to the next level. When I saw it, I was like, wow.
Well, Callan, it is your turn. What is your favorite premonition, and what is your least favorite?
My favorite, as you mentioned about roller coasters, I was a Halo diver. So I jumped from airplanes, high altitude, low open. And for some reason, I started hating roller coasters from the time my one primary shoot failed. Then I saw Final Destination 3. And they go up, and you see her camera drop after she ignores the guy telling her you have to put that on the side. And then they go flying. And every time I see that, all I can think of is open your parachute, knowing they don't have any. And they're going, 90 miles an hour? The worst for me, for especially the premonition about the water, where they're like, oh, it's water. We need to get to the car wash. Or we need to get to the pool. You guys are idiots. Like, leave the goddamn coin away and don't open your moonroof while you're going to the car wash. Just my thoughts. Like, you're going to the car wash. I know Death supposedly fucked with her, but she mentioned earlier in the movie she was having issues with her car. Don't take your car through a car wash for having issues with it. That's dumb. That was the worst premonitions ever. I see water.
Which one was this again? I sort of tuned out for a second.
4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the worst one. Where you had 2 people die because of water back to back. Like, that was a terrible movie. We can all admit that, I think.
Yeah. On a side note, this is like a nitpick for me, but I really don't like it when they like stop numbering the sequels, because it's called The Final Destination and then the next one's Final Destination 5, and then they stop numbering
Yeah.
it again.
Yes. That irked me so much, Joe. Like, the Final Destination makes it seem like it's the end of the movie. End of the series.
They actually were going to have 4 be the end of the series, but because I think 4 made so much money and they decided we can't end it here, we're gonna make another one. That's usually how WB thinks. It's like, hey, it makes a lot of money. Let's keep making them.
Yeah,
this was
but for consistency, just keep the sequels numbered.
I agree. Or a
I think it
subtitle.
was the
I don't
whole
mind.
3D thing that brought everybody. They were like, "Oh my gosh, just imagine this thing in 3D." That's why I did it. So
You know, this is not a question on the document, but I'm curious to see what people think. What do you guys think of them implementing 3D in this series? Do you think it helped it or hurt it?
I mean, I was one of those people that never saw it in 3D. I didn't care for the 3D craze back in the 2010s.
I didn't either.
I,
I really didn't care about it, and I thought it looked lame in 4, but it's not so bad in 5. I believe it just depends on how you do it.
yeah, like I'm sure people who saw it in theaters thought it was great, but honestly, I never got into it, and there's so few movies that actually did the 3D gimmick well that it's far and few between. Like obviously everyone says Avatar, and I heard in terms of horror movies, there was My Bloody Valentine was done really well in 3D. But if you watch it now, it hasn't aged the
It,
best
it
because for some reason you're thinking, why are they pointing at the screen for no reason? And then you realize, oh, it was shot in 3D. That's why.
it didn't age well. Not like if they do a VR 3D now with our current tech, it would look so much better. But the old stuff, like I saw Avatar, My Bloody Valentine, a Final Destination, they did not look good, honestly.
I think it depends on the movie and how they do it. Like, I know it's not a horror movie, but I went to see 4DX with Doctor Strange, and I thought it looked pretty good. It just all depends. Like, 4 had an effect that just didn't look good. Period. With the intro of the race car and the guy just falls backwards and his entire mouth like lands on a wooden pile and it goes through his head and it just looked cheap. It's real. It's a real effect that they use like prosthetically, but it doesn't look good, and you can tell they made it for 3D.
Yeah, it's like probably one of those effects that probably looked much better in when you saw it in 3D, but didn't age well on home video.
Yeah. So,
That's just like 3D in general.
but I will say this. I'll say this. I don't think that the time and effort to go 3D should have been implemented over actual good storytelling and script writing, because it seemed like they wanted to make the fourth movie to jump on that craze because fucking Avatar and all that other stuff that was doing like the 3D stuff at the time. Go see it in this or go see it in IMAX. And I think that is a part of why the movie kind of failed, because the director said like, oh, I really want to shoot this in 3D versus making something super competent. And I just wish he would have focused more on the movie. And I also heard 4 kind of failed because they wrote the film during a writer strike. And that's also pretty bad when you think about it.
it was rushed.
Yeah,
They did.
Wow.
they
They
wrote
rushed it
they wrote it during a
Right
writer strike.
before. They wrote it before the strike happened. I was supposed to edit that movie actually.
So they
We
rushed
got
the
told
finale?
a week before the movie got greenlit to film, we were supposed to stop working.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. When I found that out, I was just like, oh, that kind of explains why the script is not really that great when you think about it.
Yeah. Really feels like they should have just delayed it and just focused on making the best possible film instead of, oh, we gotta capitalize on Avatar.
Yeah.
But well, like Mission Impossible, the fifth movie, happened during the strikes. You know what they did? Let's stop production and ask for permission to get people to work on it. Great movie. I know it's not horror, but they did their jobs right.
It's probably
With
why
four,
it's probably why it turned
they
out well.
they rushed it so much They were like, we're gonna go off guild and work through the strike, and they had nobody. So that, like, they had no real editors or anybody who could do the cool special effects we got in the other movies because they were all on strike.
But we have to move on to the next question that we have here. That's question number 6. What? No, that's question number 7, I believe. So, what is your favorite visionary throughout the series? This is someone who sees the premonition, but they will basically, how many lives saved do you factor in, or how many warnings do they give, or how believable they are to give these warnings. Who is your favorite visionary who gets the premonition and tries to save everyone on site? I'm gonna do this first as an example so people can see how this is structured. So it's a toss up between two of them. I believe that Alex from the first one is very competent, and not only was he competent in saving people as much as he could, but he was also competent in teaching Claire, like, these are the ropes, this is how you find out death design and everything. He was always like 2 steps ahead a lot, and I enjoyed that. But obviously Alex did not like save everybody. There was a teacher that got killed and everything like that, and all the other people that died. So in terms of life saving, he wouldn't be like super high on the list versus someone like Iris. But then you could argue as well, like, Death kind of went back and killed a lot of those families anyway, but she did save like a bunch of people on that Skyline Tower, and the families that preceded it as well, for as much as she could. So I would say those two are at the top. And I gotta give an honorable mention to Wendy, because I feel like Wendy she still is like number 2 most competent female protagonist in terms of like citing the visions. And one of the cool things about the third movie is how she discovered those pictures were like foreshadowing death really quickly. And that's also cool, like, oh, so she gets it like immediately, and she tells Kevin, and he gets smart from it because of it. So that's pretty cool that a character will teach another character, hey, this is how you avoid death's design, this is how you cheat death, and all this other stuff. And I believe those 3 characters are the strongest ones so far. Drill, it is your turn. What is your favorite visionary throughout the series?
Honestly, I'd have to agree with you on Alex. He's the one that got figured out stuff really quick, even before there was before there were no other people to follow aside. Well, no other survivors to follow alongside. Because at least with Kimberly, she had Clear's help, and the others were just kind of a bit incompetent. But Alex was able to figure out stuff really quick and figure out how Death's design works, and even how to, and even he even figured out how, like, they were all gonna die next because of the order of the plane. And it made me really wish that he had lived to the second one, which he was supposed to, but obviously actor disputes forced them to kill Alex in the sequel. But honestly, Ren, you kind of just said everything I wanted to say, so yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback and say Alex.
Lucian, how about you? Do you have a favorite visionary throughout the series?
Uh, Probably just the exact same thing. I mean, he started the thing, like, well, he was in the first movie, so it was like everybody's first take on just Final Destination, how everything works, and just like the seating and everything, that was just unique. And he was actually a really good fleshed out character, because just like people were blaming him for like him making this accusation or whatever, just about how we saw a vision. So he just had that blame on him, and he had that additional like pressure on him, but he just tried his absolute best to like try and see death and then save everybody from death. And when it came to Wendy too, that was honestly like the pictures and the order of the pictures. I liked how that was fleshed out. Iris too. Just saving like loads of people. But yeah, that's all I got to say.
Callan, how about you? What is your favorite visionary throughout the series?
I have two. Alex is definitely top because the OG, but also Iris. The reason for Iris is Iris saved so many more people in that restaurant and decided to make what I would consider the first map of death. But Alex actively tried saving people, where Iris just kind of like, I'm going to sit on the back end. But Alex really did a banger job of like, hey, Clear, you have to do this to avoid death, which led to us meeting Clear in 2, where she was in the ward and they asked all the important questions we heard about in Bloodlines. Do you have a cell phone? Do you have anything sharp? Do you have a belt? It went down the list of anything dangerous. I felt that really led up to what was a really good story, too. Especially when Alex was in the cabin, when he pulled up the tab of canned meat and the little wisp of death that almost shot him through the wall of the spear gun. Alex was the OG. He kind of landed as my favorite.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that cabin scene where he's super adept at finding out what's going on, and he's just eating the old tuna. He's trying to like
I
cheat
thought
death.
it was dog food, honestly.
Whatever, it's just disgusting. I like how he used the gloves because he knows that using any sharp object or using nothing that's not like a plastic spoon would probably kill him.
Yeah.
So that
Unless
he's the coolest visionary so far.
unless he died from mercury poisoning.
Oh well, that will be a brick from
and
the second movie.
and the how careful he was with the spoon too. Just turn, take out food, put can down, eat. But he knew what he was going through.
All right, it is time for the next question. Final Destination is known for these Rube Goldberg style kills and shenanigans throughout the franchise. Which kill or situation stood out to you the most in this entire franchise? And Drill, I want to have you go first.
Right. What the most memorable kill?
Yeah, the most memorable kill or situation that
Honestly,
scared you.
that's a very hard one because there's a lot of really good ones. But I think the one that stood out to me the most is Todd's from like the first one, where he just slowly chokes to death in the bathroom, and then you see it, and then all the soap is on the floor, and he can't get out. And then the part that always scared me was when his eyes turn bloodshot, and he's just slowly being choked to death. That's just a really scary way to die, honestly, because you're basically just losing, because you're just slowly just losing air and just losing oxygen and just slowly dying, and it's just so painful and drawn out that it just makes it that it just feels like the most realistic way to die, honestly, to me, honestly, like compared to other kills in the series. that was like the one that stood out the most to me. Um, at least because compared to other deaths, like getting hit by a bus, yeah, that'd be very quick. That would be very quick, and you die so like instantly. But I'd rather go with that than just slowly, just like slowly just dying. That's at least my opinion.
Anderlucian, it is your turn. What is your favorite death throughout the
Would
series?
you be able to go? I'm looking at them right now. There's
Okay,
a lot of them.
I can
Thank you.
I can go. So I have a few of them. I don't think it's gonna stop at just one. I'm gonna try to pick top three to make it interesting. All right, number one has to be the MRI kill. I talked about this before with Bloodlines with Eric, where it's a slow, torturous death, where it starts to like nag at all the piercings and pull them off, and he gets stuck into the MRI, and then he gets crunched backwards. But the interesting part of this kill is the wheelchair is like also magnetized to his back, and as it begins to fold him into a cheap burrito, the wheelchair goes right through his stomach, and it's just practically done so gruesomely. It's one of my favorite kills in that movie thus far, so I have to put that in there as part of the top three. Next up, I'm going to say from Final Destination to the elevator lady, where she gets her head stuck in the elevator and she can't get it out. Cause I was just thinking about this kill yesterday, because I was like in the elevators near my subway station, and one of them had like a very weird and grimy floor, and the doors were also kind of rusted a little bit. So I was thinking to myself, oh my god, hopefully nothing really bad happens while I'm in here. That's the one fear unlocked, is when you think about watching a Final Destination movie and then you go to some sort of location, whatever, and they have like maybe you might be driving on the road, you see logs or something like that, but being in the elevator and shit like that kind of reminded me of that kill. And I like the tension where is they see it's a guy with hooks. The guy with hooks is gonna kill you. Then she gets her hair like ensnared. She says she doesn't want to die, and then she does. She gets decapitated. Everyone's like screaming, freaking out. T.C. Carson, Kratos, the original Kratos actor, is in this movie. He's the black character Eugene. He's like freaking out seeing the head on the floor, and I just thought it's a crazy scene altogether. So it's very simplistic, but it just works for the film. So I'm gonna put that in there, and I would say another one to me is probably gonna be the bus splatter. Once again, another simplistic kill from Final Destination 1, but it is a kill where it's like it comes out of nowhere. It's totally unexpected. And the line too of if you can go ahead and beat the shit out of Alex all you want, I'm not dealing with this. You all can just drop fucking dead, and then the bus boom. Many people say their reaction was totally unexpected, to the point where the filmmakers had to do a little breather, a sigh of relief, which is why after they are putting the seltzer water in there, and they are putting the seltzer pills in the water and they're drinking it to sort of calm the audience down after seeing this woman immediately get ran over by a bus and not expecting it. I just think it works for being one of those deaths that is effectively out of nowhere. You don't see it coming, and it's a perfect like little jump scare. It is great. It's honestly really fantastic. And as an honorable mention, I'm going to say that I really liked one of these deaths from Final Destination 3. It's the one where the engine sort of pops out and kills that weird uh, uh over sexualized character. I forget his name. Frankie
The bald
Cheeks.
dude?
Yeah, Frankie Cheeks. This dude is a fucking rampant pervert and possibly a rapist, because that's how his character is portrayed in the movie. He's a fucking weirdo. So seeing him die was the funniest thing I think I've seen. I was kind of clapping during that, but how sudden his death is because they knocked the engine out of a car. The engine goes to the back of his head and saws the entire back of his head off. And the effect at the end is like the cherry on top, where half of his head splits off and falls down. I don't know how they did that, but I really liked how it looked practically as an effect. It was very cool looking. So I have to say honorable mention the engine kill from the third one. And that's about it for me. So Interlucian, are you ready with your list or you want to be skipped?
Yeah.
Oh, you ready? Okay.
I think I'm ready. Yeah.
All right.
I'd say most definitely the MRI one because I've been in MRIs like basically all my life, like 10 plus times my life. So just seeing that happen and just it was gruesome. It's like you can't stop it. But yeah, that one was terrifying. Another gruesome one was it was from Bloodlines as well. It was the garbage truck one. She got crushed in there. That one was really gruesome. Another one was the tanning one. The tanning one just being in that I know this is like very unlikely to happen, but just being burned like at the max and you're not able to do anything because you're just stuck in there. Just the thought of that is just terrifying and horrible. I'm I think that's gonna be my list. There's a lot of deaths and it's gruesome.
Callan, it is your turn. What is your favorite kills throughout the series?
Hey, ones that my favorite are the ones that freak me the hell out. Honestly, you mentioned one of them, the elevator scene. Just nope. When I go into an elevator, I'm like, must make sure I have long hair. Must make sure I'm at back of wall. Foundation 5 with the LASIK scene. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, the laser eye
Where the
surgery.
laser cuts
Yeah.
across her face. Yeah, I will not get LASIK because of that scene. And the we all know the lovely escalator scene. Because fuck escalators. And I know this will never happen to me. The nail gun scene from 3, where the girl got plugged in the head by a nail gun a bunch of times. I know I would disconnect the gas line to the nail gun, but I am still scared of anybody with a nail gun behind me because of this movie.
Shit, you know what I failed to mention was the gymnastic scene where the girl is doing gymnastics and she steps on a nail and or there's a nail or something involved, and as soon as she lands or whatever, she is like twisted from the inside out. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, when she was doing the trampoline
Yeah.
onto the pole vault,
Yeah.
and then
Some dust got on her or something,
Yep.
and then she fell the wrong way, and then her whole body is contorted.
Yeah. Let's forget that scene ever happened, because that was one of those scenes from like, I never want to see this again.
This series is great on kills. I love it. But moving on to the next question. Have you seen any supplemental material related to Final Destination, whether it be comic books, novels, or any sort of extras you want to bring up, or any interviews, as well as the Final Destination 3 Choose Your Own Adventure that you can play on the DVD? I'm gonna go first with you, Kellen. What do you think about this question?
I have read the comics. If you haven't yet, please do. They are amazing. And having worked on the films as an editor, the people who work on it are all amazing. The only thing I didn't like was the weird choose your own adventure because it didn't work on some uh players. Like if you had a Sony player, it worked. But if you had a combo player, one that had the two disc drives, Blu-ray and DVD, it didn't work. But a lot of real good work went into that. And because if you can read the comics, please do. They are really good. They take a lot of inspiration from the writers. One of them is not about the um, plane that crashed. It's about a boat, which I think personally should have been a movie. Let's get people griping about a boat that's going to crash. But when it came out, it was also at the same time as a boat did get lost at sea and the Coast Guard had to go save. So, you know how that is. They didn't want to get bad media.
All right. So I have not read the comics. I've listened to a few interviews of the directors of Final Destination Bloodlines, and I thought they said some interesting stuff, but I interspersed that with some of my answers here. I'm just going to talk about the choose your fate thing for Final Destination 3 because I find that to be very interesting. From what I heard, the reason why this was created was because they had a lot of extra footage of Final Destination 3 and a lot of extra choices, and uh, a lot of things wound up being cut. So they decided to put in these alternate scenes into this DVD, and I think is very innovative for a lot of reasons. Number one is you can choose how certain people live or die throughout the film if you have that DVD, which is pretty cool. Now, granted, all of them are not the most awesome deaths with the alt deaths. There's the one where the tanning bed, they still kind of get burnt up a little bit, but this time they get electrocuted and it's less energy, but they die due to electricity. And then there's other decisions. You can save Frankie Cheeks, which normally I would let him die, but it's okay. It's like you can choose if he lives or dies, and he gets arrested by the feds. There's other things as well where you can choose to either affect other choices or other things happen and it goes down, and Wendy also can get hit by a train. It's some crazy decisions in the choices of this movie. I would definitely recommend looking them up because they're pretty interesting scenes in my honest opinion. I give the biggest shout out to them. You even get an idea. They kind, it's not canon now, but they even say like, oh, they killed off the Final Destination 2 prior protagonists of the Choose Your Own Fate sort of papers and everything. That's like, this is kind of crazy because they were gonna meet up on the train, and I guess they had one scene where they didn't, so they changed it entirely, and they changed it entirely in the final movie. Definitely, if you want some good alternative takes on what could have been, look that up immediately. I will recommend it. I'm going to try to link the YouTube video here in the description so you guys can see it. Drill, what about you? Do you have any?
It is a lot of fun,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, for me, the only extra stuff I've seen is the DVD stuff. I thought it was funny that you can have the that there's a choice with the coin toss, and if you call it correctly, then they are like, oh, we're just not gonna go on the ride, and then they say that everyone just live
Normal
happily
lives.
ever after.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
I thought it was a pretty funny scene. Like, oh, there's no movie, I guess. Yeah.
They sort of did the DMC5 thing where if you kill Urizen early, the game just ends.
Yeah. But,
Troll swapped
but
all the Final Destination movies with a coin flip. No, let's not just go on a broken ride.
honestly, I would
Cool.
have wished they had like more joke endings at least. But I get that it was filmed with like extra footage.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't like kill off Kimberly though, because then it kind of like makes me think that, oh, what's the point of new life if you're just gonna die anyway?
Yeah, and I think that would have had a harder effect on Bloodlines than anything else of saying, oh, this is the only person that really cheated death and that's it
Yeah.
and lived.
Yeah, but I didn't even know there were any comics or novelizations. I've only ever seen the films and the Final Destination 3 stuff. I kind of wish I wonder if like any of the newer releases of 3 have like the alternate stuff, because I think I only saw it on DVD.
Not sure about the Blu-rays, but definitely the standard DVDs they have that feature because I know the one I had definitely had it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it at Blockbuster like, "Oh, you can choose your own adventure and get alternate scenes."
Hmm.
Yeah. Like I always wondered why they, yeah, like I guess till now I always wondered why they never had more stuff. But I imagine it's pretty expensive to reshoot more scenes for just the home releases. Like the most you'll ever get now are just alternate endings or just deleted scenes.
Yep, right on Blu-ray, which I wouldn't be surprised if Bloodlines has them because they were gonna have an alternate ending where I think Stephanie was going to get into the cabin and she was basically gonna become the next Iris. She was gonna live her
Yeah.
life just like her.
Yeah, honestly, the way I think about it is like, yeah, it sounds like you just kind of fucked either way. It's either you stay in fear of death for the rest of your life or you
There,
just die.
there was an original script where Stephanie, like in the movie, when she said, "I need to go to the cabin," she went to the cabin and her mom and brother lived,
Yeah,
but she did just live there the rest of her life.
yeah, that's the ending that they were talking about for Bloodlines, the directors.
Did they ever shoot it, or was it only just like considered?
I don't know. I think it was mostly just an
Uh,
alternate. I
they
think it
got
was an alternate take, not
storyboarded,
shot. Yeah, storyboarded.
but I don't
Yeah,
think it ever got shot
Mhm.
yeah,
because they
because
were already over budget when the movie released, which is saying something for Final Destination movies. Because they get big budget, but they were over budget with Bloodlines by like 80 mil.
It's probably
yeah,
because of they had to deal with that, then the strike, then the changes. Because initially, from what I saw, they said the film would be about first responders, and then I think it was rewritten because Craig Perry said that the script took like 2 years to write, which added to the delay along with the strike and everything else, which is why it took even longer because they were supposed to do this movie. It's supposed to be after 6 years they were gonna do another one, and then it extended to like 13 due to all the delays and everything.
yeah. So
But
yeah, we'll just have to wait till like the home releases. But I imagine at the most, I doubt they filmed it. They're probably just gonna just have like a storyboard voiced at best, if they ever, if that even exists.
or maybe some ideas will slip into the next movie because I think these two guys, Zach and Matt, I think they're gonna be utilized for the series going forward.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, I heard they want to start on a 7
they
through my guild contacts.
they said that
So it sounds like they might.
they are open to the idea, but they said it's up to Bloodlines to sell good, which is it kind of is doing well in the box office, so it's a no brainer for them to make another movie. Enderlucian, it is your turn. Have you seen any supplemental material for Final Destination books, novels, parts of interviews, DVDs, etc.?
No, not specifically. I mean, there was a video I saw last night. I can link it right now. It's basically the like each death explained by the producer, but he basically just goes into like specifics on like how specific deaths are done and everything like that. But just this talk and like the pick your own thing, it would be kind of cool to like have a game, I would think, but I feel like they would ruin that. But yeah, I got nothing else though.
There is,
Honest,
and look, it could be interesting. There is those sort of choose your own adventure games. Like you look at the style of Until Dawn,
Yeah, Until Dawn.
something like that
But
could
like under
work.
like Final Destination.
Yeah,
honestly,
Imagine that.
I think I thought about it on the random dacing. What if Final Destination One had like a tie-in game on the PlayStation, and it was it fixed camera angles with Resident Evil style controls?
no, I think that it shouldn't be like you have too much control because it may take away the urgency. Or maybe I could do something with that. But I could also see people are gonna get
The
annoyed. It's too
problem
many.
is that there's only the main antagonist is omniscient
You can't beat
and
them.
faceless too.
You just
Like,
have
what are
to.
you gonna do? Just have random? Unless they added some random bullshit saying, "Oh, you got to kill these random dudes because they're
Or
cult members."
they could do it like the first chapter of Detroit Become Human, where it mentions every second counts, and it quite literally means every second counts. Like I went around and I wasted like 60 seconds looking for clues, and I lost like 20 points to my "we're gonna succeed" score. You could do that with a kind of Final Destination. Like you gotta help the other survive. It's not about you, but you gotta rush.
It will have to be an interactive sort of drama. It can't be too free flow like a Resident Evil or something because you can't beat the enemy, and it would be so many death zones, and I could see people getting annoyed. It would have to be something where you are doing quick time events and making choices and
Yeah,
making
lots of
informed choices to try to do the right thing, and if you don't, you'll die if you're not smart enough, or it'll have to be something like that
QTE
because
type
I,
Until Dawn.
honest,
yeah.
I'd be
ironically,
fucked in that
ironically,
game.
they could have done it like during the whole episodic craze.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's one of the only ways I think that would work. If it's something like Resident Evil style gameplay, I just don't see how you're escaping it. Uh Maybe if it's something like LA Noir where you may have to think on the fly to escape from dying. That could be a thing. I wouldn't doubt that it could happen, but uh I don't know. I would love a game though, honestly, if they did it the right way. I would play it. I'll be the first one there. But moving on to
no,
the
you'd be the second one. I'd be the first.
yeah, but
You sleep. You don't sleep. You need more sleep than I do.
but moving on to question number 10. Uh, if the like, okay, so for is there a final destination scenario or idea that is relatively untapped that you would like for them to visit going forward? Which ideas would you like for them to personally do next? I'll go first on this one, so I can set it up a little bit. I have seen various ideas they wanted to do moving forward. I like that these two guys, Zach and Matt, I like that they read the subreddits. They're always checking what ideas or Zach and Adam. I'm sorry if I said Zach and Matt, but Zach and Adam, they're the ones checking the subreddits. They're the ones checking ideas. One of the ideas that they had was a cool one. They said it's like a sort of ending type of scenario where if they wanted to end the series, a cool idea was they said an asteroid. Somehow NASA managed to make an asteroid that is hitting Earth sway its direction, and then everyone on the planet is like marked for death. And I thought that was pretty fucking cool. So whoever came up with that's a cool franchise ender in my opinion. It's like now everyone is gonna get killed, and I think that's awesome. There's other ideas that they were originally gonna do in the original scripts where they said that it was gonna be initially Final Destination 6 was gonna be a movie about first responders, EMTs, coming to action, and then something happens which causes death to miss them completely. So cops or emergency responders like EMTs and coming in, and they would be affected somehow. So it would be cool to still see that idea on the other side of the fence. Like, how are these care workers going to get out of a situation where they've seen death like various times and now it's coming for them when they're supposed to be like saving lives? I think that's still a cool idea. Another one is when I think the director, or is he? I think he's a producer. Yeah, he's a producer. One of the producers talked about more period piece settings where it is like, okay, we're gonna go back in time and maybe we could do stuff from there where the possibilities are endless. We already saw it with them going back to the 60s with Iris. Therefore, they could do things like, oh, let's go back to like a war, a world war, and then Death could be like on the battlefield because a lot of people are dying on the battlefield anyway, but Death is trying to help them out, help the enemy tango out or something like that. That'd be pretty cool if they do more period piece movies. And then I think he also mentioned something about the Dark Ages, where he wanted to go all the way back to medieval settings and do Final Destination that way, which could also be pretty cool. And the last idea I think I have is remake routes. And I know people are going to be like, I don't think they should remake any of those movies yet. Like, some of them are pretty timeless, but I feel like 4 is, no matter how you slice it, is going to be the black sheep of the franchise no matter what. It's the bad one. So in my mind, I was thinking, what if they made that movie and the premise actually good? They reverse the premise where the race car thing happens last and the mall thing happens first, where anything around the mall is like killing people, escalators left and right, the movie theater as well, stuff crashing down. That is a real legitimate fear. And I think if they reverse the premonitions, it would make a very interesting movie if they add in extra character depth and connections to the franchise with a remake, and they reverse premonitions, and it's like it could be a lot more scarier that way if they do that. I think that's still an interesting idea, and maybe remake the first movie because I mean it did come out in 2000. They could definitely do a lot more things with it, and maybe set up, since the Alex actor could hypothetically move into the second movie because they had some actor disputes with him for the second film originally. Maybe they could show more of his backstory going into Final Destination 2, and with a reimagining they could rewrite some things and have him live a lot more longer and change the lore, something a la like Resident Evil 2 remake where they change certain things, and you got to see some characters shorter or longer depending. I would like something like that for Final Destination if they got to that point. And that's all my ideas that I have done. Drill Bits, it is your turn. What ideas do you want to see them do going forward?
Honestly, I would have liked to see them being the whole first responder thing that they were gonna do originally. It was a bit disappointed that they dropped it. Maybe the idea is that it takes place during the events of the first film, and and then they're trying to investigate like the incident of Flight 180, and then all the first responders get caught up in it. Something like that. That would have been a cool idea. Or maybe like have like the main cast be still be first responders, but they end up affected by death as well. That would be something that would be cool. There, in terms of like other ideas, they still have more to go with, but I do think that they probably could But I do like that idea you said of having it be a period piece. I kind of wish we got more scenes in the '60s. That would have been an interesting change for the series. To have it take place in like the '60s or the '40s. Hell, maybe like have it more involve like some supernatural stuff or witchcraft,
I, I
something like that.
I would like to see a 1940s or 50s Final Destination where it's around the mob era and one of them is like a detective or something like that and he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. I think that would be a cool protagonist if they did something like that.
Yeah, but period piece horrors are usually pretty expensive to do. But I do think it would be a great idea to have, as a change of pace going from like the six, change of pace from going from like modern day, at the very least. That that's just my that's just my idea.
Alrighty. Next up is Interlution. Is there an idea you want to see moving forward with Final Destination as a franchise?
I mean, just thinking about just going back, like having them having a movie like back then. You can maybe do like something like William Bloodworth's father or something, like some additional lore on that. Like maybe his father like knew a lot back in the day or something like that. That'd be another idea. I was maybe thinking. I kind of did maybe want them to play around uh with the whole cheating death thing, especially when it comes to killing somebody else and taking their life. I I personally maybe would have liked somebody like going like crazy, like, oh, I know I'm gonna die, like I need to. They just go full on psychopath. That would just be like an idea I wish they maybe played with a bit more, but other than that, I have nothing else.
There's one more idea I want to put on the table that was mentioned by one of them was kind of alluded to by Spartan, but also another one was alluded to by 3C Films. I think they had like sort of similar ideas, just a little bit different in ways. But they said something like, "What about focusing on like a serial killer?" And 3C said something like, "What if this serial killer like Death managed to avoid him for some reason, or he managed to like not be on the list, and he knows about Death and what's going on, and then he's killing people. So you have a physical embodiment, sort of similar to Peter in the fifth movie." uh where he knows about it, but Death like is protecting him and helping him because he is a serial killer. And now you have a physical person, then you have the manifestation helping the
So
serial
you have
killer.
both basically.
Yeah, and I was like, maybe that could be something, a cool little
Hmm.
twist. I would like that idea, because Death was kind of helping Peter a little bit when the knife fell on the floor and near Sam, and he could have killed him right there, but it was not his turn just yet. It's like, oh, it's not your time. Uh, so Death can technically, theoretically, help someone out if the plan is, oh well, this person either has to die now or maybe they have to wait, vice versa. So they could do something with that. I would like to see that idea actually. But Kellen, it is your turn. What ideas would you like to see going forward with Final Destination?
I mean, everybody kind of tackled it. I would love to see if we did like a prequel to Iris, where we had like a World War II death, or even a future death where there was some reason Death missed an entire unit, and now wants them after they made their lives when they got back home and they're happy again. I think that'd be a really cool story, personally. But I know a lot of people are tired of seeing that kind of story. But as a vet, why did Death miss me all those times? What if he's just waiting, just circling like a shark? Like, I'm watching you. You know, I'm watching you. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. And then somebody's like, "Oh shit, death is coming for us. We have to do the thing to avoid death." We've not seen that before. I think that'd be a cool way to respect veterans. And also a cool way to evolve death. Like death was like, "Oh shit, I missed you. Now I'm coming back."
And furthering scenarios as well, like uh death, someone surviving a premonition on a submarine or someone surviving a premonition on a boat. There's still more fears to unlock that I'm sure people are scared of, that they do on a daily basis, that you can sort of rework and re-event around, and sort of refocus and be like, oh, this person's scared of this, that, and the third, etc., or this sort of thing. Or maybe uh, some more stuff with like electric fires breaking out and everything because there's IT people around, and there's plenty of places you can go to fuck with stuff.
Hit the guy with a stick. We had a guy who grabbed two grounds wrong, and we were like, "What do we do?" Grabbed a stick and shoved him.
I,
Like,
I want to see
I mean,
more movie stunts, like maybe someone on a movie set, it goes wrong, and then that's a real legitimate fear as well. There's still plenty to do in that vein, I believe personally.
Honestly, if they want to make it meta, have a Final Destination film where it takes place during the making of a Final Destination
oh,
film.
that would be cool.
I would like that
Just
actually.
You know,
just
like New Nightmare.
Yeah.
avoid the thing with 5 or no 4 where the guy gets hit with a tank that somehow exploded and he went through the vent. But New Nightmare version of it, that'd be great.
All right, so we're moving on to the next question. What are your favorite and least favorite characters in the Final Destination series? Describe why. Drill, you're up first.
Honestly, for least favorite, it'd probably be everyone from 4 because they're all extremely forgettable. They're just there to die, and I can't even remember any of their names. I literally did not care for anyone that died, any single person that died in that film. Like I know there's that dude that got like sucked up through the pool. That's like the only part I remember. Well, that's the only dude I remember. But yeah, they're like the worst for me. Probably the best would probably be from, well, in terms of character. And favorite characters would probably be Alex from the first film. First film, probably Kimberly from the second. The comp, I actually like the detective from the second film as well. Also Clear, and Samantha wasn't a bad character either. She was smart and had a head on her shoulders, and definitely wasn't a bad character. That and other than that, like, oh, other than that, yeah, like those were like the most memorable ones for me. And I know about other characters like from 5 and 3, like Mary Elizabeth Winstead was in the third one, but I honestly can't remember her character that much. So aside from her being a good actress, yeah, like her character was pretty forgettable. Those were like the only ones that really stood out the most to me.
Uh, favorite and least favorite for me. I am going to say, for me, again, Alex appreciation post. I believe he's very great. A lot of energy. I just think that Devon Sawa really portrayed that character really right. And the tone and the seriousness that came from it made him a very believable protagonist. So
Yeah.
that's why it really worked, along with Clear having her family issues and that sort of getting brought into the picture. I just found that stuff to be very relatable. As for other characters in the franchise, I'm gonna say Burke from Final Destination 2, the cop. He gets really
Oh,
charismatic.
that was his name.
Yeah, Carter Burke. Well, is it Carter Burke? I forget. I just know his name is Burke. But Burke is very charismatic as it goes on. I like how he doesn't doubt what is going on. He's not one of those people that's like, oh, well, what you're saying, because I feel like in a lot of these movies, you'll get characters that get the premonition and then everyone else says that it's bullshit 99.9% of the time. But I liked how Burke was like, oh wait, this might have some validity to it. Look at this pile of, I see it right now, this girl might be actually telling the truth. I like how he's one of the people that did not doubt what was going on, which was cool. And then as for other characters, damn, I liked the chick from the sixth one, which was Stephanie. She was cool, and I also like Sam as well from Final Destination 5. I thought he was a pretty cool character in the midst of things. It's like a lot of these characters are pretty well done, except for some of the side characters. Oh, his name is Thomas Burke, by the way. So apologies for my mistake on that one. But people like McKinley, I fucking hated, like from Final Destination 3, because immediately he just turns into, oh well, I don't believe what's going on, and then at first you think he's gonna be the conspiracy theorist character, and then he's like, he turns into an asshole. Then he tries to kill everyone else, and I'm just thinking to myself, what the fuck is going on? It's like, yeah, I did not like how his character ended up. The stupid bratty girls that were also in there, the tanning bed chicks, were also like annoying, stereotypical Paris Hilton wannabes. So
Yeah.
when they died, I really didn't care. And then
Yeah, they were definitely a cliche of the 2000s.
yeah, and
I think most people only remember them because there you briefly see them nude, at least topless. I mean,
yeah, Final Destination 2 and 3, they love their titty sequences in those particular movies.
oh, and I forgot to mention, but I'm surprised Devon Sawa didn't like pop off after the 90s. I remember he was everywhere, like Casper, Idle Hands, and a few other movies.
Yeah,
Obviously, Final Destination.
and then it's weird he dropped off, and then we saw him again in Chucky, because he's always in Chucky as some character that gets violently killed, and then he comes back as like a different person. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, I always enjoy seeing him, so I'm not gonna shit on him.
No, he's a great actor.
Yeah,
I just wish he got more roles past Final Destination.
yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in more horror movies as maybe like a gruff veteran character, since he's older now. That'd be pretty cool to see a gruff survivor sort of in the thick of things. But yeah,
He actually was in Hard Eyes recently, I think.
oh, that yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't want to spoil it, but I know which sequence that he is in.
I
But
haven't seen the movie myself, but yeah, so I have no comment on it.
it's you, when you see him in the film, I'll just say that it's hilarious. It's very vague though. But yeah, I would like to see more of what he does. But as for other characters, it's just the typical sort of, who's that guy? Oh my god, he's played by Texas Battle. I forget his name. Lewis in Final Destination 3. Dude, this dude is straight asshole. He is like one of the worst characters in that movie. He
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
he doesn't believe anything. He thinks everything is BS. He's worse than Eugene in Final Destination 2. And the whole scene that he's in is super funny because he's working out. It's like, fuck death. Fuck death, baby, I just win. His death is so hilarious that
yeah. His
But-
head popped
but-
like a balloon.
yeah.
the way he just screamed, "Yeah!"
And then his head
Like,
just
oh,
pops up.
you know you're gonna be a marshmallow in a minute, right?
Now that I think about it, aside if four's characters weren't so bad, I think I would have just said three.
Yeah, I wish 4 had better
Nah.
characters. Cause in a way, I think Nick could have been an interesting protagonist, but they just like botched it.
No, they wrote him completely wrong.
It's like his premonition, he had no reaction. I'm like, why? But I'm gonna end my question here. I'm gonna move on to other people who want to talk about other characters. Enderlucian, what's your favorite and least favorite character in Final Destination?
Ooh, I mean, Alex is up there. Clear River, Stephanie. I, I'm honestly like forgetting. I'm having to search up their names and everything. But
Believe me, I was in the same situation because I
yeah,
got that cop confused.
I have. Yeah, I mean he's cool. That cop in the second one.
Yeah,
But
that's Thomas Burke.
yeah, Thomas. Yeah, there's a lot of what's the what's the that tattoo guy in Bloodlines or whatever.
Eric.
I mean he's yeah. I mean he's a pretty cool, funny character, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, there's just so many people. I mean, I just named my top, I guess.
I'm gonna say before I move to the next person. Yeah, Eric's an honorable mention because he is funny. Like I believe having likable assholes or characters that's just kind of funny does help a little bit, and I think it all came from improv, which is why his lines are so stupid when he says nut check and he hits his brother in the nuts. I just
No,
thought that was
yeah,
great. Yeah.
it, well,
Any-
but Ren, did anybody do a nut check of the RV?
Oh, he did, and then he did another one outside when he hit
No.
his brother. But Callan, it is your turn. What is your favorite and least favorite characters in Final Destination?
Okay, favorite, uh, probably Clear and Eric, because they were trying to tell. Well, Clear was trying to tell them, stop fucking around. Eric, because he was just funny. He was a funny asshole. My least favorites, Eric's brother, Scott, I believe was his name.
Mm-hmm.
He just seemed like a tool from the start. And I know their sister died, but she was kind of a bitch from the start. She
You know
reminds
what,
me of my sister,
Cole,
who's a bitch.
Cole take,
So,
but I think his sister is worse than he is.
yeah, like she reminded me of my sister, who's a bitch. So I was like, I immediately don't like you.
Like she
You're
told
gonna be a
Stephanie,
bitch.
she told Stephanie, sometimes I hate you. I'm like, oh my god, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like she deserved the garbage can.
I agree.
Well, maybe not that, but she deserved at least losing something. Maybe a finger, not being
Yeah,
crushed.
honestly, I was
Because
So brutal.
surprised she died so early.
right? I was like, oh no, she's gonna like lose a finger or something.
Like I thought
Okay.
they were gonna save her, but nope, her head gets popped.
Yeah, that threw me, and I was like, what the hell?
That's one of the good things
We are
about this
really
movie. That's one of the good things about it is like you expect that to happen to Eric, where they're talking about, oh, watch out for the kids kicking the soccer ball. He's like garbage truck. He keeps walking and like nothing's happening to me, and then it happens to her, and then they're chasing the truck. So that's one of the best things about the movie is like that
I
part.
I I did not expect that to happen. When it did, I almost dropped my popcorn in the theater. I was like, what? I mean, I don't like her as a character because as a character, she's a bitch. sees her cousin for the first time in what, 2 years? Oh, hi, you're here. But you're not gonna say hello or anything? You're just gonna, oh, hi, you're here. Moves on. I just didn't like her.
There's probably worse
I'm
that exists, honestly. I think about it when you think about 4.
no, 4 doesn't exist.
Oh, that works.
There are 5 Final Destination movies. 1, 2, 3, 5 Bloodlines.
All right, so we are moving on to the next question. We got 2 more before we are done with this podcast. Do you have any criticisms of the Final Destination film franchises? Things that you didn't like, or situations they should have done better or rewrote differently with certain characters, aspects, etc. And we're gonna move into drill first. What do you think of this question? Drill?
Sorry, I was looking at it.
Okay. Yeah, we simply said for question number 12, do you have any criticisms of Final Destination and things that could have been done better?
Hmm. I feel it. Well, this might be a nitpick, but I wish they would have kept more continuity within the series with like 3 and 4 at least, because I do like that with 2 they actually made it kind of like a ripple slash butterfly effect where those characters are only alive because of the events of the first film, and now death is working backwards. I thought that was really cool, but then 3 they kind of went standalone and just saying, oh, it's just a random group of people now. I kind of wish they would have kept more continuity within the series, or at least try to help tie it within the films aside from just referencing them. I am glad that like 5 and 6 kind of like went back and course corrected. Although that's what the only thing I would have said they should have done different is have 3 and 4 be more connected, or at least keep continuity with those series,
Hmm.
and maybe like fix, and obviously like probably improve on like the third act for Bloodlines, because it definitely feels like the weakest part for me, mainly because it just kind of suddenly ends and feels predictable. That's like the only thing. Like, I don't really have any real problems with the series aside from that.
I'll go next. Well, there's the obvious one where I do think that them killing Alex off screen was kind of lame. I get why they did it, but just because they did it does not mean that it is a good decision overall. It kind of, I think that second movie would have been cooler if he was in it, even though he probably would have died in it. I think it would have been a cooler idea to have both of the veterans in there at the same time as opposed to being killed by a brick off screen. Um, we all know what we feel about the fourth movie and some of the things about Bloodworth that could have been done a little bit more better, or keeping him a bit more mysterious, as well as uh I really did not like the whole entire I just wish that for the bloodline thing it would have been a little bit more expansive than we thought, as opposed to some of the interlinking stuff in history, and how most of those families are like kind of dead now. But it's that one was just a nitpick for me in my review overall. um I do think though that they're gonna have to get to a point where they introduce new lore, and I don't know how they're gonna do it. That's kind of scary to me. But if they want to keep things fresh, I don't think that the next few sequels need to like necessarily. I don't think it could be just another Final Destination movie. I think they're gonna have to shake it up eventually, something similar to 5 where it felt fresh enough to keep going. So the main concern with me is I hope it doesn't get stale, because this idea, while it is vast, it has the huge potential to get stale, and we've seen entries with the lore slow down or get stale, and it's like Drill said, some continuity being lost in between with Final Destination 3 and 4. Like, they do reference Flight 180, but Final Destination 2 happened. They don't reference that in that movie, and I always thought that was weird. I was rewatching Final Destination 3 today, and I was like, why didn't they mention the car pile up? Because that was another incident that kind of was major and it happened, but it was Flight 180 again. I was like, oh, that's okay. That's weird, but whatever. So yeah, they could definitely work on that as well. And I think that's it for my criticisms, other than a few character flaws or whatever. They could definitely work on the above, as well as hopefully WB understands this is a great horror franchise for them and they keep continuing it. And I just a small other gripe, I thought that delay 13 years was ridiculous. I understand script writing took a while and everything else to get to this point, and it is the uh highest selling movie in the franchise, so no doubt they're gonna make sequels, but I don't want to wait 13 years in between for my next Final Destination movie. Hopefully that does not happen again, and we get the next one sooner rather than later. And those are my opinions on that, at least. Um, it is Enderlucian's turn. What do you want for the future of the franchise for Final Destination, and is there any sort of criticisms that you may have of the series?
I mean, after Bloodlines, I mean, the only additional thing, I want more movies, and I definitely want more lore because they went back in time. Surely there has to be more on a William and everything else, but just after Bloodline, I definitely want more Final Destination if they can make that happen.
Do you have any things you didn't like in other entries or in Bloodlines or anything in particular?
Uh, I felt like a lot of the endings were like kind of rushed in a way. Some of them were good. Like we're talking about the ending for Bloodlines. But yeah, they're way how they killed off of Alex, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
he died off
It
screen.
sucks. Yeah, that does suck. But
And we said the third acts are rushed because it's a few of them that are really like that. I would say the third act for 3, 4, and 6 are not really that good.
mm-hmm. But yeah, I want more lore.
Oh yeah, totally, and I think they can do the problem of fixing the third acts to be a stronger ending. You don't have to do the same plot twist over and over again like Final Destination 5, but it was a strong ending. So something that ends peak would really help the next iteration of the movie and maybe set up for the next one.
Like how did this death thing start or something? I don't know.
Yeah, some introduction, more origins, that'd be pretty cool. Callan, how about you? Is there any criticisms you have of this franchise that they should fix for future iterations? Callan, are you there, buddy? That is a no. Okay, so,
Oof.
we're going to move to the final question until he gets back. How would you guys rank these movies? And we're gonna go with Drill first.
Okay, I actually wrote it down, and it was tough, but I really. But here's my thing. Here's my list. Honestly, 2 I think is like the best of the series, mainly because it kind of started to plant the seeds of like the formula and even establish more of the lore. It has probably some of the best premonition in the series. All of the kills were really good, and it really show, and it was just like a bigger, better Final Destination 1 for me. And then for the second, it probably, well, I'm going from best to worst. Well, the second best would probably be 2. I mean 1, because obviously it's where it all started. It's like the most, I guess it's like the most atmospheric of the whole series, which is why I put it at the second. But it definitely had its growing pains for sure, and they didn't fully establish all of the rules yet. But it still had a really good cast in it, and a lot of great kills in it. 5 for the third best would probably be 5, because it did a great way of, at the time, like wrapping up the series, and it truly felt like they came full circle with it ending with Flight 180. Honestly, that was like one of the craziest endings for me, like seeing Alex and the others. I don't think I think they just like used footage from Final Destination 1, but they just had body doubles for like the scenes with the 2 actors. I thought it was really crazy, like thinking, oh shit, that's Flight 180, and you know what's gonna happen next. And for 4, it's definitely, for now, it's Final Destination 6. I think it's still a good movie, but it definitely, I didn't like how they retcon certain things, and kind of like, they kind of had to like break the rules a bit just to keep the series going, and I felt like 5 had perfectly wrapped all that up. But I get why they did it, but I still liked it. And 3, I mean, it's not very good. The cast is pretty forgettable. It has some decent kills in it. It has some pretty decent kills in it, but it's definitely one of the most forgettable ones for me. I think I've only ever seen it twice and just thought it was meh at best. And then obviously the worst being 4. Just no good characters. The premonition was bad, and aside from like one memorable scene, everyone just felt, everyone would, you just never cared for anyone, and it would have been such a disappointing way to end the series, but thankfully they didn't. And 4 is still, yeah, like, I think like 2 and 4 will always be the best and worst for me, and the others might change down the line.
Okay, I'm gonna do my list. Um, everyone's list is gonna be somewhat similar in the fact that 4 is bottom, but I'm gonna start from, I'm gonna start from best to worst. Coming in at number 1, I'm going to choose the first movie, and the reason why, and my list is changing overall, but the reason why the first one is like at the top for me is because that's when the premise felt the most fresh, in my personal opinion. Because it was the first one, it was the OG characters. It had one of the darkest themes, even though Final Destination 2 is still like a very dark movie. I think the first one is the darkest, and it kind of mean, and especially since the first death is like Todd, and that is a relentless scene through and through as to what is going on. Memorable characters in that film as well. Great side characters too. Great kills for the time. Obviously, the kills are not better than Final Destination 2, obviously, but for what they did at the time and all the practical effects, I really enjoyed it. The scenarios, everything. I think the first one, in my opinion, is one of the best ones. And obviously, I'm gonna pick 2 second. I think that makes logical sense. This is the fan favorite, the one where everyone says it's the best, along with 3. But its placement here is fine. It's still a top tier movie, one of the best intros of the franchise period in terms of premonitions, with the fact that yes, this car pile up and the way that it looks and everything is flying everywhere and the way that they did it. I would just like to pick Craig's brain as to how crazy that filming was, because holy shit. And that was an incredible sequence. Toppled in with like a lot of old and new death going back to sort of reverse the order because these are people that survived because of situations that happened involving Flight 180, which I thought was excellent for the lore at the time. Along with the new life thing as well. The lore they added into this movie is kind of like just peak Final Destination, but the reason why it's not number one on my list is because I just think that the first one was more fresher in my mind in terms of ideas and creativity. Next is Bloodlines. I put Bloodlines here as number three. Like I said, really great movie all around. We talked about it ad nauseum. Great kills. Some of the characters are fun. I just really hated the third act, and it felt like such a it just felt like, hey, the characters got to this point and it's like, nope, psych, you get crushed by logs. And I just thought it could have ended in a more dramatic and meaningful way. Hell, I would have taken the ending of this movie with the fact that one of them got into the cabin and maybe one of the family members died. And I like that scene where Stephanie's like crying over the mother being dead or something to that effect. Just something a bit more dramatic that's really well done. But no, they kept going and I just didn't like how it ended. But overall, still a great movie. Skyview, pretty cool. And all the other stuff that I said about it. The final scene with Bloodworth is a tearjerker, and I'm glad that these people at least understand what to do with Final Destination going forward. The next movie on this list is going to be 5. Now, like I said, this is not just because it's getting low. It does not mean that anything is shit before. Personally, at this point, I just see 5 the least, which is why I said this might change on the list. But it is a pretty good movie. It is a pretty well done movie. I just wish some of these scenarios were a lot more memorable, so to speak. Because there are certain situations where they kind of meander around. Now, granted, the story twist, this has the strongest ending in the series by far. And I'm gonna give it that. Definitely, what they were setting up in this movie is definitely still top tier. But I feel like 2 was just a more cohesive movie on structure and how they set up things. Like, there was one whole office scene in 5. I just did not care for it whatsoever. But great ending, great lore, and great kills in this film. Definitely, this movie is eons better than the fourth one. Um, Coming in next to the last one, which is the fourth one, but this is Final Destination 3. I like Wendy. I'm gonna keep it short. I like Wendy. I like Kevin. And some of the kills are cool. The roller coaster thing makes sense, but this is another one where I hated the ending, where it kind of cheated them out of the premonition once again, and before they could do anything, Death is like, "Gotcha, bitch." It's just kind of funny that way. But I like Wendy so much that she kind of just got fucked over, and she is confirmed dead according to Bloodlines. And again, I like that there is no escapes, but that sucked because Wendy's one of my favorite female characters. Uh, and this one, the pacing's a little bit more off, in my opinion. I feel like some of the characters aren't strong enough to carry it. Like I said, you're not gonna be rooting for people like Lewis at all. Never. Okay. There's just some people, and then you got the creepy Frankie Cheeks dude, and it just gets a little bit weirder. And I'm like, I don't know, but it's a cool movie nonetheless.
No, that's when you have a character who you need to punch in the face no matter fucking what.
No, it doesn't matter because he got an engine block to the back of the head, so I kind of got what I wanted. But for the last one, which was the worst one, it's obviously 4. It needs no introduction on this list, being the lowest one. Terrible CGI, awful. I don't even understand what they were trying to go for, because it just looked awful. Like, when you see those two people get cut in half, it's literally like PS2 style blood coming out of them. which is just so funny to see. They try way too hard to try to make this movie go over the top with the 3D, and it just did not work for me whatsoever. I find most of the kills lame except for the escalator one. That's the only good kill in the entirety of the film because it looks practical and you can see the meat grinded up as the main character's girlfriend leg gets caught in the escalator. That's about it. What could have been a potentially great film just was marred by so many production issues and them rushing to try to chase the dragon on 3D, which is why I really don't like this film a lot, and I think it needs to be remade to be better. You can save the idea, but the execution here was terrible. Next up is Interlution. What is your list of Final Destination?
I think mine's the exact same, but yeah, we got one in the beginning. It just starts out really good. Like this is everybody's like first view into Final Destination and everything. And I just like how they put it with Alex and how everybody just didn't believe him, and yeah, it just landed perfectly there. When it came with two, just the first premonition, and this one was really good with whatchamacallit. Uh, I forgot the word. The foreshadowing with the kills. Like foreshadowing was like really heavy on two, and it just carried it as well. Like what's gonna happen? Bloodlines. That one was really good. I surprisingly liked a lot of the humor in that one. A lot of the kills were really stood out in that one. There was also like anticipation, like on many of the kills, you were like, something's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get killed right here and then it turns out, oh no, you're wrong, and they die some other way. But that carried the story as well. Five. This one was the bridge, right? Yeah,
Yep.
I think so. So that one was pretty good as well. Yeah, definitely when it came to the ending, that one definitely stood out. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a prequel. Well, that's crazy. Uh, Three, I mean, I like the whole roller coaster aspect and everything. I mean, characters were I did also like really like Wendy as well. I kind of like the picture thing too. I mean, I guess the story aspect of that. And then four, yeah, that mall scene. I mean, that was the best thing out of that. So that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, 4 is just an overall forgettable movie, which even 3 kind of outshines it in a lot of ways. Uh, Callan, it is your turn. How would you rank the Final Destination films? If you are talking, your mic is not flaring up. Just letting you know.
Uh,
It's fine.
One, it was the peak, like introduce us to this franchise, have fun with it. Then we had two, which continued it. But Bloodlines, I love the callback. I love the callback to everything that it did. And then three, so many good kills. Five, like Ender said, like the way they did the prequel thing, whoa. That was great. And then Destinations, I put that in air quotes. That shouldn't have been in the franchise at all. That was just terrible, terrible, terrible movie. From writing to directing, the script was bad.
It's funny because
Then that
fun fact, the person who directed Final Destination 4 was David R. Ellis, and he directed Final Destination 2. So it definitely all boiled down to the script for sure.
great director
What
who
was the
got
budget?
Yeah, the guy who directed Final Destination 2 directed Final Destination 4.
like they had to have just kneecapped him because Final Destination 2 was amazing.
Yep.
4 was dog poop.
I know he liked the 3D aspect, but the like I said, writing it and there was a writer's strike that happened near it. It just was all a sign of bad juju and wanting to jump on the 3D craze.
And as somebody who helped work on the editing, I can say we got hamstringed because they wanted to go bigger and better.
I can see that. But
And
okay.
sometimes bigger and better is not better.
Yeah.
You know?
I even the premonition, I just can't think of many people that are scared of NASCAR. Like I would rather see a circus than to see like just NASCAR cars running into the audience.
A circus would have been better, honestly.
Someone dying on the tightrope, like that's a legitimate fear. That could happen. So
Might as well
But,
just make it a
I-
circus.
yeah.
I lived near a NASCAR track most of my life, and I never saw a car do that.
I've seen cars hit the audience or run into the crowd, but I've not seen a pileup where it is a massive scale of like multiple cars, multiple tires slicing people in half. Another thing about that movie as well that I did not like is the fact that the infrastructure was broken as well. Like that's another thing that I noticed. Like where is the health inspectors?
What?
What's going on? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Like the engine, like the big cement brick that holds this thing together all of a sudden breaks.
Yeah,
No, that's not gonna happen.
no government official checked this place out to see if it was old and decrepit and that a lot of people would be here. Like it's just such an unbelievable scenario.
Yeah, it broke that for me during that movie for the suspension of disbelief. Like, why is there like a piece of cement would have fell on a kid's head, and they're not just gonna sit there being like, "Yeah, I got hit by a thing, Mom."
No, that place is getting closed down.
Mhm.
It's getting closed.
They would have left immediately.
And the whole place is getting
An
closed.
engine flying out of the cab of the car? No. I used to race. My engine's not flying out of my car.
If the FDA can close down food places faster, this place will get closed down immediately. And what else? What else is there's something else that I'm missing.
McDonald's get closed down faster.
No,
than that
hold on.
respective
Hold on. There's something else that I'm missing. I just forgot it. God damn it. But it was just the unbelievability of what was going down is just kind of what kills the movie for me. Someone decapitated by a wheel. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like even for a Final Destination movie, it seemed very cartoonish.
Yeah.
It felt like it was like an old WB cartoon for Final Destination. It was terrible. I am sad that I helped work on it at one point. It is a shame of my career, to be honest.
It's just so funny that they were gonna get the original director of Final Destination 1, but he went to direct Dragon Ball Evolution. I was like, I don't think that's yeah, James Wong. He is the director of Dragon Ball Evolution. I'm like, I don't think that's any better.
Um, it's like, what do you want to do? Bad movie or worse movie? I think they
Oh,
kind of just even out right then and there.
if
They were both bad.
this is on my resume. I set myself on fire. That's the first thing I'm doing. But we are going to sign up. I think this podcast has gone on for a good minute, almost 3 hours of fun. Go watch the Final Destination movies. Have a good time. We're gonna do
Except
outro.
for-
Yeah, we're gonna do outros at this point. Yeah, except for Drill. Where can we find you on social media, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I'm still on Twitter. Well, for now, while it's literally falling apart at Drillbit777, on Blue Sky at Drillbit. And those are like the only social medias I'm really active on. Maybe like YouTube down the line, but that's to be determined.
You can find me on Blue Sky at rentoperative.bsky.social. At this point, fuck Twitter. Each time I go on that site, it is a flaming fucking inferno. I can't stand it. So you will only find me talking about games either there or on Twitch at Renegade_operative or on YouTube at Renegade Operative, where I will be there. You can find all my socials in the description. I'm not a hard man to find.
Where's the TikTok, Ren?
But I do have a TikTok. I don't use it as much, but I'm hoping to use it more, and I think it is Ren Operative. You can find me over there. Interlution, where can we find you on social media, buddy?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, I think that's all I'm active. I'm not on. I'm not active on Twitch. I haven't streamed once on YouTube, so yeah. I mean, I'm not even active on anything when it comes to posting. But it was a pleasure.
You know what? I do feel that because sometimes you do get social media burnout, especially when keeping up with a lot of stuff. It's kind of hard.
Man, I just look at deals on Twitter and such. That's all I do.
Yeah, I don't blame you actually.
Deals and news. That's it.
Callan, where can we find you on social media, buddy?
You can find me on YouTube and the Blue Sky at Callan Hale. When I eventually remember Blue Sky exists and get back to making videos. Because I had to upgrade my rig a lot. This has been a lot of fun.
All right, and we are going to sign out. If we do another horror franchise for movies or whatever, we will definitely let you guys know. Just all depends on scheduling and all that stuff. Next podcast is going to be the Jill Valentine one, so I look forward to that because that is on the 30th, so that's in a few days. Until then, we are the Infinite Ammo Syndicate. We are signing out, and remember, in deaths, there are no escapes, there are no cheats, and be careful out there from that flying water pot. See you guys next time. Later.
And race cars.
And race cars. NASCAR. Oh my god.